Today, guys, we are going to be building out some enclosures, or rather some stands and some enclosures. This is going to be a stand for a reptile, maximum reptiles enclosures. They're 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot PVC enclosures. I'll show you guys those in a minute. Right now we are building a stand to set it on so we can set it up off the ground a little bit. And we're gonna put some insulation in here because we are in a basement. And I just want some insulation from the cement floor that we're on so I can help keep the heat inside of the reptiles enclosures. So we're gonna be setting it on 2x10s, so it'll be 10 inches off the floor. We will put insulation inside of here, some foam insulation boards. You guys, some of this stuff right here. So we're going to be taking this, cutting it down to size, fitting it inside of this wooden base, just to give some insulation. So the coldness from the floor during the winter up here, up in New York, is very cold. Help keep heat inside of the reptile enclosures. So let's get back to building. So what we're doing here is just drilling 2 holes on the side here to put 2 screws in, just to hold this board together so we can get a nice and even edge on the side here. So we can drill the other holes we need to put in the middle just to secure it better together. Just put a couple of screws on the side just to hold it so that it doesn't come unaligned when you drill the rest of the holes. So also when you are drilling holes, putting screws in a board, like I said, like these two just going together the corner of this, you never want to go in a straight line putting your screws in. You always want to go in a zigzag pattern. It just helps keep the board together better, and it's going to give it a little bit more stability than just putting your screws in a straight line. It's a little tip when you're building enclosures. Also, it'd be helpful if you had more than one battery charged, and think about this a little bit more ahead of time so you don't have to keep switching batteries back and forth like I'm doing right now. Just another quick tip, it's always a good idea to have one drill, especially when you're doing like this. You want to pre-drill your holes with a drill bit slightly smaller than the diameter of your screw. It just helps so that when you're drilling into it, you're not going to split the wood, because occasionally, depending on the wood and the screws that you're using, if you just try drilling a screw directly into the wood, especially if you're going into the smaller diameter of the wood this way, you can actually split the wood, where if you pre-drill your hole, this is basically just going to go in enough for the spirals on the outside to grip into the wood and hold the wood together, but you're not going to be pushing the wood out. You're taking the center, basically coring out a hole for the screw to fit in, and it'll just hold your wood together rather than splitting it. So you want to have a drill set up with a drill bit, slightly smaller diameter than your screw, and a drill set up with your bit for screwing the screw into your wood. Now we just have to measure and cut our foam board to fit inside of this. You can just want to take and score this pink sheet foam. If you score it at least halfway, you can actually just take and snap it right off. This pink foam board is fairly easy to cut, thankfully. to get some 2x4s, cut them to fit in between here as braces to give our base some support and also give us something to secure these two, which are going to be underneath of this, and they'll be secured to the top of this to give our foam something to hold in place so it's not just laying on the floor. Perfect. Empty box, perfect number of screws. Alright, so now that we have our braces in place and fastened in, we're going to flip it over and hook our insulation onto the bottom of this. And always know, whenever you start a project, something is always going to go wrong. So don't feel bad when you make mistakes and you have to fix it along the way. Things never go to plan the very first time. No matter how long, how many times you plan it out in your head, you sketch it out on a piece of paper, know exactly what your measurements need to be. When you start putting it together, you're gonna have to adjust something along the way. So don't get discouraged or frustrated when you have to go back 2, 3, 10 times and readjust along the way of your building project. It's gonna happen. Definitely highly recommend this pink insulation board rather than getting just regular styrofoam or styrofoam boards. This stuff is a lot less messy when you're trying to cut it apart than styrofoam. It does cut fairly easy. Perfect. Put our handful of screws in there just to hold it in place. You don't really need, it's probably gonna stay in there with how wedged in it is, but just gonna put 4 screws one around each corner just to make sure it's not gonna go anywhere. Alright, that is our base fully assembled, insulation in place, ready to put on our first enclosure that we built the other day. Alright, so that is our new enclosure on top of our new stand. We're going to be putting a top onto this one, a spacer that's going to sit about like this. Then we're going to put another one of these enclosures on top here. We just have to build them. They're in these boxes right here. Spacer in the middle, second enclosure on the bottom. So we're going to get those together and get them stacked on top of each other. Should look nicely. We're going to be having our red tegu being housed in the bottom one for now until we get her a bigger enclosure. In the top enclosure for now is going to be our Australian water dragon right here. This is our male adult Australian water dragon. Eventually he will be going in with this girl right here, which is our juvenile female Australian water dragon. They will be going into a larger enclosure when we have more room and space and when she is old enough to go in with him. But for now, he is going to be going into the one of these that's on top. And she is going to be moving into this larger enclosure, which is a 36 by 36 by 18 inch deep Exoterra enclosure. As you can see, it's got a pond down here. I have mosquito fish that are thriving down in there. They will take a bite out of them, snack out of them every once in a while. They're living and breeding very well down there. So let's get to our second enclosure and get that